Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Normally, when a politician, and be it a local MP, a Minister of State, or in this case, the First Minister, goes on one of their little visits, it's always the same old thing. It's announced in advance, the press turn up, you get the photographers there, snapping. It's all fake rictus grins, as it's all backslapping bonhomie as he meets, and he does the big handshake in front of the cameras. And everyone is everybody's friend, and everything is rosy, and the world is a good and wholesome place. Even when it's not. Even when it's an awful place, and it's woeful, and things are falling apart. But you've got to put that spin on it. And that's what these things are done for. Now, back in July, it was the 75th anniversary of the NHS. And Humza Yousaf went and visited the Forth Valley Hospital in Larbert. And of course it was the usual game was supposed to be played. He turned up and he met and smiled with all the doctors and the nurses. And he went around the wards like some, brown Jesus, curing people simply by his touch. Just to show how much of a great humanitarian he is. Except for Jewish people, of course. He had nothing to do with them. Doesn't like Jewish people, we know that. So there he was doing this. And then you have to wonder why nothing was said. Why was nothing released? Why was nothing announced? It's because that game only works if both sides are prepared to play that game. And unfortunately, the doctors, the nurses and the patients in the Forth Valley Hospital, they weren't prepared to play that game. Oh, no. And so nothing's come out and it's been kept secret. Oh dear, oh dear. Let's have a look at this story. Here it goes. So secrecy surrounds failed Health Secretary Humza Yousaf's NHS discussions as the government refuse to disclose details. Who'd have thought the NHS being secretive, eh? Oh, not letting the truth out. Oh no, can't do that. Because as I always say, the truth damages them. They hate the truth. The truth is dangerous to the NHS. So anyway, exclusive. The First Minister toured around the Forth Valley Hospital in Larbert to mark the 75th anniversary of the health service. But what he discussed on his trip is being kept top secret amid reports he got a rough ride from doctors and patients. And there he is. And he's looking suitably doctorish. Look at me. I'm about to lay hands on this man. Get up and walk from your bed kind of thing. And the bloke in the bed does not look like a happy bunny, does he? Does not look like he wants that stranger there while he's lying in bed ill. I would have told Humza Yousaf, look, do me a favour, mate, and F off. The secretive Scottish Government has once again withheld key information surrounding failed Health Secretary Humza Yousaf's NHS 75 discussions. Failed Health Secretary? Failed Justice Secretary? Failed First Minister? Failed everything. Failed marriage? Could be second failed marriage where it's going. Now, the now First Minister attended a number of events across Scotland to mark the 75th anniversary of the health service. But he was also in charge of the NHS for an ill-fated spell between 2021 and 2023, leading to it having record A&E waiting times, as well as dangerously long cancer waiting times and delayed discharges. He was often called the worst health secretary since devolution by opponents, although Michael Matheson has said, hold my beer, because Michael Matheson is actually getting worse under him. Anyway, this did not stop him from being elected by SNP members as their leader, although nobody knows why, because they're now looking at that and thinking, ooh, buyer's remorse, shouldn't have done that. Anyway, the NHS is still to fully recover from his time at the health brief. His successor, Michael Matheson, has failed to arrest the slump. It's actually getting worse. With doctors warning this winter could be one of the worst of all time. It's bad to think that you've actually got a health secretary, somehow, amazingly, worse than Humza Yousaf. And boy, he was bad. Anyway, back on July the 3rd, Mr Yousaf attended a walk around at the Forth Valley Hospital in Larbert to mark the 75th anniversary of the health service. He also announced a £4.5 million investment in the Improving Cancer Journey project, which the government is running as a joint partnership with Macmillan Cancer Support. Talking the big game, yeah, talking the talk, can't walk the walk, and we know that. He can't even limp the limp. This guy, I mean, he's destroyed the NHS almost single-handedly, hasn't he? And yet now he's sitting there trying to take praise. Anyway, he goes to this hospital. Whoa. He was given a tour of the day surgery unit, where he met staff members from the likes of general surgery and urology, as well as the patients using these services. Oh, he went to urology. Was he taking the piss? The aim of the visit, according to the government documents, was for him to meet patients currently benefiting from the service and to thank staff from a variety of different NHS departments for the work they do. I would be surprised. If you were a patient, would you want Humza Yousaf approaching you in any way? I mean, seriously, sod off. I'm here to get better. Seeing you's making me vomit. Go away, you strange person. I'm only in here because of you. Sod off, you know. Yeah. Anyway, he said it was also utilised to help set the tone for the week of celebrations and avoid clashing with any Royal Week activity he's currently involved with. Aha. Who wanted him at the Royal Week either? He wants to break up the UK and become a republic. Surprised he got an invite to the Royal Week. Anyway, the media were invited to the Fourth Media to interview him about the trip. It's never good, you know. It's never good when you do. You've got to look at these things in advance. I was Health Secretary. I made it so much worse. And now, as First Minister, I'm going to a hospital. Don't let the media in, for God's sake. Anyway, Mr. Yousaf was expecting a tough audience on his visit due to his failures as Health Secretary. But it is unknown whether he was briefed on this, because the briefings released by the government through FOI legislation are almost completely redacted. They don't want the truth coming out. The excuse is given that free and frank provision of advice was included. Now, by free and frank provision of advice, they mean we told the First Minister that his name is mud, that people regarded him with deep suspicion, that they actually loathed his presence, didn't want him there, and he was being rejected. But they don't want people to know that. We can guess it though, can't we? Anyway, he said there was also no minutes or notes from his tour of the Forth Valley Hospital. So officially, it never happened. We have pictures and there he is, talking to some poor bugger in bed. But it officially didn't happen because there's no notes and there's no minutes. So therefore, it didn't happen in officialdom. A number of topics were broached to be discussed during the tour of the facilities, including some pressing national issues for Scots. These included improving the cancer journey and the action plan for doing this. Which still hasn't been done. I mean, July to October, 4 months? 4 months and it's still not done. Unbelievable. These people, they're dangerous. They're killing people. The SNP are actually killing people. Anyway, currently these are at almost record levels in Scotland. 1 in 4 patients were not starting their treatment within the 62-day time frame of diagnosis to treatment, while some were waiting in excess of 100 days. That can be a death sentence. A week can be a death sentence with cancer. Some desperate Scots have even been forced to raid their savings to go private due to fears of dying. And planned care and waiting times were also topics of conversation during the First Minister's visit. But all briefings for him were left redacted. No, they're not. They're redacting even the topics. They don't even want to release what they were going to talk about. They're that embarrassed by it. So how bad was that, that visit? Nobody's ever heard of it. It was all kept out of the press because, access media, if you publish this, you ain't getting access to anything else. So, of course, they pull their stories. Meanwhile, they're hiding all the information to save his blushes. It goes to show that the entire civil service in Scotland is officially an SNP civil service. When there's a change of government in Scotland, they're going to need to change. They're going to have to go. Now, the civil service is run by Westminster, but they're going to have to go to Westminster and say, can we have a complete personnel change, please? Because the civil service we have now is so pro-SNP that when we go in and say the Labour government, we'll be treated as the enemy by the civil service. That's, I think, how bad it is. Anyway, planned care and waiting times were also topics of conversation during the minister's visit, but all briefings of him were left redacted. A&E waiting times hit a record low during his reign as Health Secretary and have continued to drop below 70% since then, with thousands of patients waiting longer than 4 hours for treatment. In total, the 19-page briefing document seen by the Scottish Daily Express was left mostly redacted, with only 3 pages not kept secret: the agenda and the profile of those who he met. So basically 19 pages, you've blanked out 16 pages of them out of sheer embarrassment at realising how detestable this man is. And nobody wants to speak to him except to moan at him. Nobody wants to tell him the truth, that he's a complete and utter twat, a moron, dangerous, a killer, because he's letting people die on cancer waiting lists. And they don't want to embarrass him. He needs to be embarrassed. He needs to be shown up for what he is. A failure at every level. A man who's cost people their lives. And he stands up there like the Messiah, trying to say, if you stick with me, I'll make Scotland a better place. Under the SNP, Scotland has got so much worse. I'm coming up. Now, we used to talk about his incompetency always with humour. But when you see his incompetency on matters like this, it's just not funny. He's incompetent, he's stupid, he's ignorant, he's despised. And all of this coalesces into something that is costing people their lives. People are dying, families are being ripped apart, simply because that incompetent buffoon has been given authority. Not just as First Minister, but in every job he's had prior to it. He's not a leader. He's incapable of leading. He's incapable of making decisions that are beneficial. He's someone who should not be respected. He should not be listened to. He should not have the job he's got. He needs to go for the benefit of humankind. Anyway, I shall stop there because otherwise I'll just get angry at him. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope that this video has shown you, A, first of all, how bad the civil service are in Scotland, because they are basically pro-SNP, working to hide his embarrassment, to hide the awfulness of the First Minister. And secondly, it goes to show how despised Humza Yousaf is in the NHS. And doctors and nurses tend not to despise people. They get annoyed at that, but when they absolutely despise people, there must be a reason. And I think we all know what it is. Anyway, until next time, stay safe, stay well, and for heaven's sake, don't go to hospital if you can avoid it. It's not very good. Till then, bye-bye.